muy malo. Roto el paso de vestuario. La interpretación siempre negativa. Siempre negativa. Nunca positiva.
Can we finally say that Barcelona are on the brink of the La Liga title? It didn't quite go their way this weekend. They did their homework, beating Osasuna 2-1 on Saturday, but Real Madrid's 2-0 win at Espanyol on Sunday means the wait to be proclaimed champions will go on for at least one more week. This is Siempre Positivo. I'm Sam Marsden, joined by Rik Sharma and Tony Joan Marti. Rik, how are you doing?
All good.
Are Barca on the brink?
Barca on the brink, finally, yeah. Finally on the brink.
Sharma official. It's Sharma official. Barca are on the brink. Tony, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo están?
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Very good.
All fine?
Do you know what? Yeah. No, I'm really good. I'm doing really good. And I feel bad saying this on the podcast, but I was so desperate for a Real Madrid win on Sunday night.
You didn't want to work until late yesterday, no?
Well, there were a series of knock-on effects, of Real Madrid not winning. Would have meant, I mean, the title prep was easy done. That news story was prepared and knocked out and ready to go whenever Barca win the league. Because it is a question of when, not if. Barca still 11 points clear, just 4 games to go. A draw in the Clasico will seal it. Even if they lose the Clasico, they still need just one more win from their final 3 games. They're not going to mess it up from here. But if Barca had won the league on Sunday, it would have meant having to do all the sort of, the how Barca won the league season review type thing on today or last night, and also the potential Rua today would have eaten into plans or changed things. I just wasn't ready. I'm just not prepared for Barca to win the league. To be fair, a lot of it is my problem. I could have prepared slightly better this week, but now I've got the whole week to prepare things for the Clasico and hope that Barca get it done in that game, because I do understand why Barca fans not nervy about winning the title, but maybe nervy about Real Madrid delaying it further by winning the Clasico. So I understand why they would have wanted it to win before and get the guard of honour against Madrid in the Clasico. But I think there would be nothing sweeter for them than beating Real Madrid and winning the league at Camp Nou in front of their fans, as we discussed last week.
Hard-working, well-prepared journalists didn't mind if Real Madrid drew or lost yesterday.
Agency journalists, because you're just banging out a few lines of of who knows what. No, I had a couple. I had an advance prepared in terms of Barcelona back-to-back La Liga champions under Hansi Flick with 4 games to spare after Real Madrid failed to beat Espanyol, and then a few details. The more I'm worried about is the more in-depth, complex stuff that I've got to prepare that doesn't just rely on me either. That's the problem. If it just relied on me, I'd be a bit more relaxed, but I'm relying on input from colleagues, from Moises, from whoever. So I was a little bit nervous. Now we've got all week to get piece that together for after the Clasico. Tony, what about you? Did you want it done last night? Did you want Barca to win the league on Sunday and to have this week building up to the Clasico, talking about the Pasillo, the guard of honour?
No. I think we talked about this shortly in the last pod. No, it's never the same winning the league after the final whistle of your own game. It's never the same than when you have to do it by checking flash score, no? So, no, I didn't want it at all. So, I think for Barca, the situation right now is the best one, no? Because you can celebrate it right after the Clasico, and it's not only that you need to win. Just with a draw, you still can get it. So, in terms of options, that's the best option, because even if you get a draw, you will celebrate it. So you don't even need to win the Clasico. So, crazy. And I'm sure that players that have been suffering, like Raphinha, Gabi, they are crazy to celebrate in the face of Madrid players, no? So, I think at the end, the destiny is going to be friendly with Barca this season in terms of when winning your Liga.
Is it true that no La Liga title's ever been won
true.
in a Clasico?
It's true, yeah.
Yeah, not
So that's big. That's interesting.
It's going to be the first time.
not mathematically. Yeah, there've been loads of sort of. I mean, there's probably been loads of times when the Clásicos effectively decided the title. If you think the most recent one I can think of.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess even last year's technically sort of was the final push for Barca, that comeback and that win. I'm also thinking of the Frank Kessié goal a few years ago in the Xavi title against Real Madrid. Shortly after that disallowed Real Madrid goal, that was a big goal. But no, I was going to ask that same question as well. I was pleading ignorance. I was trying to look. It's a hard thing to find, because you find things which say they haven't or whatnot, but it's hard to know whether to completely believe it, whether it might have happened in the 30s or the 40s or who knows. But I haven't been able to find an example of either Barca or Real Madrid actually clinching the La Liga title by winning the Clasico. I guess in general, and we spoke about this last season, I think, in general, because they usually play it a little bit earlier. It's only these last 2 seasons that they've played it a little bit later in the season. They usually have one in October and one around March. Obviously, I guess this is also a thing which is fairly sort of new over the last sort of 10, 15 years. Before there was more sort of randomness to when the Clásicos were played. But certainly over the last sort of 10, 15 years, when it's been a more dominant, certainly Barcelona and Real Madrid period, we've pretty much always had Clásicos in October, and then March or April at the latest. To have one in May is quite late, so obviously when you're having them earlier you don't have that chance to clinch it mathematically, which is probably the big change over these last couple of years.
Yeah. They do kind of plan out the season to their own whims.
Yeah. No, I think it works well. Like I said, I understand why fans or whoever might have wanted it wrapped up and not have to worry about having to do it against Real Madrid, and Real Madrid having that chance to sort of dig them out of a hole twice in terms of making Barca wait. But there can be nothing sweeter than being the first team to win the title in the Clasico. That must be a huge motivation. It just gives a little bit more taste to the week. I know we would have had the boring Guard of Honour stuff, but building up to the game when the title's already won, even though we know Barca are going to win, it just makes it a much more, still not massively exciting because we know where it's going, but it feels like there's a little something to look forward to in the Clasico on Sunday. Yeah.
That's why I said I didn't mind, to be honest, if Madrid won, because of that. In terms of work, I would have been happy enough just to get everything done out of the way last night and today, and then we're sorted. Can start to, if not relax, because there's potentially, I guess not for you guys, but the Champions League with Atletico and all that to come, but at least a quiet week. Whereas now I'm going to have to do probably a bit more work, maybe another extra piece or two for the Clasico, because there's something at stake still. But I mean, that's okay. It's going to be a good game on Sunday.
No, with wanting Real Madrid to win, I was prepared to take more work this week and wanted more work this week, versus the short term of having to turn everything around on Monday and then there not being so much interest, perhaps globally in the Clasico. Thinking that obviously inside the Clasico bubble in Spain and Barca, Real Madrid fans and a lot of neutral fans are probably always going to be interested in the Clasico, but if Barca have already won the league, there'll probably be a large portion of people outside the bubble who are like not bothered about watching if they've already won the league, kind of thing. It's not as interesting. I'm talking about
the Alan Partridge gift.
I'm talking about as we refer to them on ESPN, the page one viewers, who are obviously like the multi-sport. The page one could be any sport. Basically, obviously, it's usually the American sports, but maybe like the Clasico would make it on there. If there's not the title on the line, it doesn't make it on there. But if it makes it on there, it's like page one, very we're not talking about in-depth reporting here. We're talking about the sort of scene setter in terms of team news, in terms of what's at stake in the Clasico. It's more likely to make it on there and generate interest. That Barca can win the league by beating their eternal rivals for the first ever time. I mean, it's actually historic. Like Tony says.
Yeah.
History could be made at Spotify Camp Nou this weekend.
That's the other big good thing about this as well for Barca, I think, is that the Camp Nou hasn't really had, I mean, there's been some good games and some interesting games, some good results. Obviously, they've won every single game at home in the league. But this will be the first massive day at the new Camp Nou if they can win the title against Real Madrid in the Clasico.
For Barca's men's team.
For Barca's men's team, yeah. Well, the 4-3 win against... We can talk about that later if you want, the women's game we were both at yesterday. But I don't think that was a game they're going to be overly proud of, to be honest.
No, but I think they will because they were the first. Not just the Bayern game, obviously the Real Madrid game, both over 60,000, both big wins, now into a 6th successive Champions League final, as you say. Like you say, we'll come to that at the end. Let's rewind a little bit to Pamplona first. Saturday night, Barcelona following up their difficult trip to Getafe with another difficult game at El Sadar, and once again coming through it, perhaps in the not not in the most exciting manner, a sort of fairly drab first half. Hansi Flick felt Barca improved in the second half. It was 0-0 going into the final 10 minutes when Robert Lewandowski scored. Marcus Rashford given all the time in the world to sort of just stand on the corner of the box, wait for Robert Lewandowski to choreograph his run, play a delightful cross, and Lewandowski, great header as we know he's capable of, to give Barca the lead. Ferran Torres, the other much maligned striker at Barcelona, doubled their lead a few minutes later to make it 2-0, and that did look like that, but Osasuna did make a slight fight of it. Substitute Raul Garcia, not the former Athletic midfielder but the Osasuna striker, with another good header to get them back into the game, 2-1 heading into injury time. And yeah, there was a little bit of tension at the end, but Barca held on to move 14 points clear of Madrid temporarily before they played Espanyol, and celebrated at the end of the game in front of their travelling fans, singing Campeones, Campeones, even though, as we've discussed, still not quite mathematical. But yeah, unremarkable but impressive nonetheless, because I think after Lamine got injured, when we were looking at these Getafe games, these Osasuna games, we thought perhaps one of those games could be difficult. They could draw one of them, they could lose one of them, and they come through them easily, as they have done pretty much everything really in the last few months, certainly in La Liga, since losing to Girona. They've won 10 in a row now in the league. They've been unstoppable really, even if some games like these last two perhaps have been slightly on the unremarkable side.
Yeah, it was not the easiest watch, this game. I found in the first half particularly, it was quite difficult to maintain my concentration on it. I guess while you're writing a report, you're also looking at different facts and stats and stuff, and then if the game's good, you forget about that, and then in the second half you're like, I better quickly look some stuff up. But in this game, I was happily reading different articles about Barca and facts and blah blah blah, without much need to sort of draw focus back to the game, because it was quite a tough watch. They did enough to get the job done. Two players, like you mentioned, Lewandowski and Torres, who have struggled, to be honest, at times this season, but big goals in a game where there wasn't that many chances, and both came with both produced good finishes for their goals and got the job done.
Tony, comfortable? Well, not comfortable, the most comfortable victories, but wasn't too many problems for Barcelona, and a goal for Ferran Torres, El Shark.
No, I think I said a similar speech after the game in Getafe. No, for me, being aware that Osasuna is still not totally, how do you say, saved? No.
Well, Osasuna are
safe.
Not totally safe because no one is, but they're also sort of have half an eye potentially on a European spot as well.
Yeah, no, but mathematically they were not yet salvados.
No, not safe even. No.
And it's true that they are fighting for Europe. But what I want to tell you is, once you see that your league is already won, for me it would have been normal to go there with a bad attitude, like, hey, it's hard stadium, we are almost champion of La Liga. No, the opposite. I saw a quite serious Barca and facing with good mentality, So I think that's really the best thing that you can say to praise Barca. No, it was not a brilliant game, but you see that Rashford is fighting for staying in the club. Again, I think we are all underrating his season, and Barca is a little bit cheating him because he's trying to find reasons to sell that you are not going to pay the 30 million. But I'm sure that in summer, when Barca were speaking with the player, would have told him, hey, if you make these numbers that he's making, for sure you will stay. Now he has done the numbers, and now the other party is not more or less is not doing what they promised. Gerard Martin, great game. Ferran also doing well. Lewandowski also trying to show that he's still alive. So I think, very, very, very serious game. And for me, this kind of mentality is the most difficult thing. So great surprise. Well, not surprise, but great exercise of professionalism, the one that Barca did in Pamplona.
Rashford is interesting. I'm surprised. It's a very difficult debate, the Rashford one, because the numbers are there and the performances are there, and it's hard to sort of they do give different points of view. I do agree with Tony. Like, if you'd have said from the minutes that Rashford's got that he'd produce these numbers, they are good numbers. And when you talk about whether it's Jan Vigili or Victor Munoz or whoever, it's very hard for me to imagine someone like that coming in and doing the role that Rashford has and posting the same numbers in terms of goals and assists. In the Champions League, 5 starts, 6 substitute appearances, 5 goals, 3 assists. In La Liga, 15 starts, 14 substitute appearances, 7 goals, 7 assists. And I'm always wary of sort of criticising players, or not criticising, but perhaps sort of demanding more for them, and one of the big arguments in recent weeks has been, obviously, he had those chances against Atletico Madrid. Yes, he scored in the league game, but in the Champions League he disappointed. But it's very hard, I think, to sometimes be out of the team, which he had been for different reasons, a couple of little knocks at certain times, and mainly just because he wasn't getting selected, because either Raphinha was fit or other players were selected ahead of him, whether it was Fermin Lopez on the left, to then expect a player to come in and just be the star man. I think it's a really, really difficult question. I think the 30 million is a good price. I just think I would lean towards not paying it, and I'd feel bad for him because he's probably done the numbers to deserve it. I just think with Barca's budget, it's better spent elsewhere. I think he's exactly what they need in terms of a squad player, in terms of that role that he's got. He's perfect. But I just think it will all come down to what money they have available. It's a really, really difficult one. But I'm more towards not than yes. But it's interesting what Tony says. Where are you at with Marcus, Rik?
Yeah, it's very difficult. It's almost like the price point is absolutely perfect for what he's delivered, because it's one of those where it's kind of really uncertain what they should do. And to be honest, his numbers are fantastic. But unlike what Tony's been saying for a lot of the season, football is not just about these numbers, and that's why Barca aren't just signing him, because Flick, he doesn't exactly deliver what Flick wants. In many games, in some games, he's a very useful weapon. In this game, he came on and added something that no one else was adding, sort of the dynamism to burst into the space and scare Osasuna in a way that they weren't getting off Fermin Lopez, and Rudibaz Hadji had not a very good game on the right. Obviously, he's not played that much this season, so it's kind of difficult one for him just to come into the team now. 1 goal or assist
per 88 minutes played, Marcus Rashford. Goal or assist per 88 minutes played this season. Eh?
Great stats. The stats are clear, and yet the opportunity cost of who you don't sign if you sign Rashford is undoubtedly a factor given Barca's finances. We've talked about this loads of times, so I won't go more into detail on it. But I do think they need players like Rashford in the squad. We have to do the sporting director episode to work out how much. Not that Barca end up spending the money that we end up spending on these sporting director episodes, but we have to do the episode to know whether I would keep Rashford at the club or not.
Where my doubt is with Rashford is, I think as the 4th or 5th forward at 30 million, obviously we have to factor in wages. I think it's on that basis that the other 3 are fit and whatnot. I think it's almost a no-brainer. I think he's great coming off the bench. I think he's someone that can impact games with the qualities that he has. I think for a large percentage of games throughout the course of the La Liga season, he can come into the team and rest players. My one doubt is, as we saw this season, and again, I'm being harsh and sort of almost saying what I said shouldn't be said, but I still do have that doubt whether he could come into the team at the decisive stretch of the season and be the sort of deliver in Champions League quarter-final, semi-final if players are injured. And maybe that's putting too much on a 4th or 5th choice forward, but then should you be paying the wages that you're paying him? I think for 30 million, you'd have to take a big wage cut for it to be feasible for Barcelona. And we've seen in this last week with Raphinha out, with Lamine out, he's still not getting minutes. Obviously, he's not a right winger, but Roony Badaji's been playing ahead of him on the right, and he's been coming on for Roony. Tony, do you think that could change this weekend in the Clasico? Do you think there's any chance we could see Marcus get a start in the Clasico against Real Madrid? Raphinha didn't come on; he was on the bench against Osasuna. Perhaps he could start the Clasico on the left. Marcus could start.
No way Raphinha is going to start. How can you be after 5 weeks not having even played 10 minutes against Osasuna directly to the lineup? No way. No way. Let's see. I see Rashford as a starter in the Clasico. And
on the right.
Probably on the right. Then, between Lewandowski and Ferran, I think we'll play Ferran as a starter. And then on the left, I guess it will be Fermin with Olmo in the number 10. No way. I don't see Roony because Flick has showed that he's not trusting him. And no way I'm seeing Raphinha. So maybe I could leave 10% or 15 or 20% of options of Roony Bargi on the right with Rashford on the left. Mainly based on that you have this big gap of points with Madrid, so a little bit you can make tests. And thinking on the summer, if you put Roony Bargi as a starter and he makes a great game, instead of 10 million, maybe you can get 18 million. That's the point that I could maybe understand, and that's why I give some options to Roony Bargi to be started again against Real Madrid, and then Rashford in the left. But no way for Raphinha. No, not at all.
I find it hard to imagine Barca selling Bargi for a substantial amount of money.
You mean that no one is going to pay you, for example, 15? You mean?
Yeah, I feel like 15 is the absolute maximum Barca will get out of him.
Well,
absolute maximum. In fact, I think that's beyond. I think they'll get 12 if they.
If they don't say this, Barca is desperate. So I think with a percentage of sell-on and 10 million, Barca would accept it. I think.
Yeah. Much more realistic than
totally
that number. Yeah.
Well, at the risk of just always going to the Premier League market, grouping in the same teams, whether it's a newly promoted team, whether it's Ipswich or whether it's Leeds, I feel like they could pay like 15-20 million for Bardghji. I feel like that's the minimum. I feel like if there's any bottom half Premier League team comes in looking for your players, like the starting point is 15 million. Like they never sign players for less than 15 million. To be fair, Sunderland, did they get a couple from Getafe for a little bit less?
Palace signed Uche, but that was up to 20, I think.
They're sending him back though, and they stop playing him so that he doesn't play enough minutes, and they don't have to activate the clause.
Oh dear! But the other thing is, would Roony Bardghji go to Ipswich? I don't think he would.
I don't know.
I feel like
maybe he's a big Ed Sheeran fan.
Problem. Yeah, well maybe, but I feel like he'll want to go to a club with European football, even if it's Europa League or whatever, and then those clubs will be like, no, we'll pay you 8 million euros for him, and Barca will be like, we want more, and then they'll be like, actually, we could use those 8 million euros, so okay.
Maybe a loan.
Yeah. What have you made of him in these two games?
I thought it was okay in the last one. I thought it was disappointing in this one.
Maybe a loan, I was going to say. Maybe a loan to Girona. Who knows?
That could put some value into him, yeah. Because it's really hard to just sign a player like this who has hardly played all season for any decent amount of money.
That's true.
Yeah, I would bet with a large amount of sort of confidence that Roony Bardghji by September the 1st will be somewhere else. It's just impossible for him to stay and develop at Barcelona when he's got Lamine Yamal ahead of him. Regardless of his performances, whether it's good enough or not good enough, at his stage of his career, at his age, I think he'd be looking for more minutes elsewhere. We obviously saw when he was away with Sweden, he already sort of complained about the lack of game time, and that's not going to change anytime soon, I don't think.
Yeah, I tell you what though, combining the last two topics, Rashford and Bardghji goes, and Barca get 10 million for him. That's a year of wages for Rashford. I think that it could increase the chances of Rashford staying, because he's shown in the last few games he can play on the right, which isn't something we've seen him do previously under Flick. But in the last few games, he's tried to use him on the right, so it could be. And then it's not a bad. Maybe you don't need to have a straight backup for Lamine Yamal, because Lamine Yamal will, unless he gets seriously injured, is going to play 98% of all games, all minutes in the season. So if you have a player like Rashford who's actually covering another position, but if Lamine is out, can play on the right and be a very good backup, then...
Well, and Raphinha can also play on the right.
Yeah, but we don't know what's going to happen with Raphinha. I wouldn't be shocked if Raphinha does go this summer.
Ojo. Sharma exclusive.
No, not an exclusive. I just wouldn't be... I do think he wants to win the Champions League with Barca. I said that last season. In fact, previously I said I don't think he'll leave until he wins the Champions League with Barca. But I don't know. To me, there's something in the air that feels less certain that Raphinha will stay.
Yeah. No, it's going to be. I feel like it's going to be an interesting summer at Barcelona, because Hansi Flick knows the team doesn't need loads, but it does need more than necessarily improving the 11. And even though it does need improving, it just needs a few little touches to the squad, just to, that evolution, just to keep everyone on their toes and to keep things fresh ahead of the third season. He's made a couple of sort of comments that lead towards that, and I think it's going to be interesting, and there may be one or two big decisions. Although we say this every summer, and in the end, a lot of players don't want to leave, and it never quite happens because of that. But I think there could be a few outs and a few ins, not necessarily big outs, but people like Casado, and whether there is one interesting one, we'll see. Like you say, one to discuss when we come round to the sporting director episode in a few weeks.
Luckily for Rik, the wife of Raphinha is not listening, I think, our podcast, because you should know, maybe some of you, they don't know it. Sport, they wrote an article last hour saying that Raphinha is considering a possible departure, that he needs to reflect, to think, to discuss with his private circle what he wants to do. And the woman, the wife of Raphinha, answered to this information with emojis of a face laughing like, hey, this is bullshit. So she wants to say that there's nothing to think about it, and Raphinha will 100% stay.
But do the wives of the players, are they always correct, Tony?
It's giving. Why are you giving Sarah Gundogan vibes?
Yeah.
Sarah Gundogan vibes.
If you are not, how can I say, with all respect, if you are not stupid, because this is the most respectful word I can use, if you are not stupid and liar like the woman of Ilkay Gundogan, a player who was supposed to be chased by me and went to Galatasaray, and in less than 3 months he was not even starter. It's true that normally some people can deny, and then it has been proved that journalists are right. But in this case, I don't see a reason to write this emoji if you are not totally convinced that you are going to stay.
Yeah. No. If I had to bet, I probably would bet that he stays. I just think there's a bigger chance than in the past that this summer he goes.
Also, the wife of Gundogan was going to bet that he would be staying in Barcelona when I said that Barcelona was willing to get rid of him. And surprise, Mr. Sarah Gundogan, I'm sorry for you. Let's have a coffee when you want.
All right, then, let's hear the ratings. Rik's ratings from Osasuna 1, Barcelona 2.
Yeah, John Garcia 6.5, Eric 6, Kuba 8. I think he was the best player, continuing his recent good form. Gerard Martin 7, Cancelo 5.5. I actually thought he had his worst game for a while, Joao Cancelo, in this game. Gavi 6, Pedri 6, Rooney Hadji 5, Olmo 4.5. Thought he was very bad, Danny Olmo, in this one. I wouldn't say I've come around on Olmo. Like, I've always been down on Olmo since he arrived. But in the last few weeks, I actually thought he's been playing a bit better and doing a few different things than he had done before. But this was a bad performance. Fermin 6, Lewandowski 6.5. Not a great game, but a good goal. Ferran 7.5, Rashford 7.5, Frankie 7 off the bench.
Yeah,
good marks for the substitutes.
Yeah, like it's good injection.
Lewandowski, not great game, but a good goal. When it's Ferran, it's good goal, but not good game. Order matters. Yeah. It's always the same with you. Hey, look, 20 goals, the Shark, okay?
Good number, great numbers for the Shark.
20 goals, it means 1 goal per 125 minutes. Only Lamine Yamal has scored more than him in Barca this season. Lamine Yamal 24, Ferran 20, Raphinha 19, Robert Lewandowski 18. Again, good final weeks of the season of Ferran, and just despite that you don't like him, imagine that you are his agent, and you go to a meeting with the club. Which is the reason that you are not going to be valued when you show this list? 20 goals. Only Lamine Yamal has scored more this season. If this is not a good season, then you have to ask me what's a good season again.
No, it is in terms of goal scoring numbers, and I think there's no point in the season where I've ever denied this. He's had a good season in terms of goal scoring numbers.
When we analyze a striker, we don't analyze normally goals. We normally want to see how he's dressing, his dress code, his cut of the hair. No, this is what matters when it comes to analyzing a striker, not the numbers. But it's not the numbers.
I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna engage in an argument with someone who won't listen to any reason.
No.
So
not an argument, but I want to tell you, I was the first one who said that Ferran made 3 months of total shit, but after the first month, excellent, that he did, And after that shit he did, and again now doing not excellent, because he has scored only 2 or 3 these last months, but this more than decent finish end of the season. At the end, his average of the season, he went from a 9, dropped from a 3, but now we are again at least in 7.5. Let's see how many goals he can score until the end of the season. But right now, only Lamine Yamal has scored more than him.
It's one of the things I've talked about in the pieces that's going to come out whenever Barca do win the title, is that this season the squad players have contributed, but it's not been a feeling that anyone's been particularly good outside of Lamine and Pedri and Joan Garcia. Those three have been good, and beyond that, everyone else has scrambled together what they can to help get Barca over the line.
It's funny because Ferran 20, Lewandowski 18, Raphinha 19. So it's like it's totally tied between them. This I don't know how to say in English, but la segunda unidad. I mean the complements of Lamine Yamal are more or less all performing well in terms of number. It's more or less very equilibrated, very tight.
Yeah. Tony, would Ferran Torres start for these teams? Bayern Munich?
No.
Paris Saint-Germain?
No.
Atletico Madrid?
No.
Possibly yes, but Simeone is changing the lineup every day. So tell me. I will ask you. Tell me which is the official lineup of Atletico. Which is the?
It's Griezmann and Alvarez, the 2 strikers. That's what he's in the last few months.
In the last few months, because if you check the season, Griezmann has been more in the bench than starter.
No. But since Griezmann decided he was going to leave, he's started to play really well, and Simeone's just selected him every week. Yeah.
Okay. No, with Atletico, it's a difficult question to answer. But who else you want to ask?
Arsenal?
No. Well,
Real Madrid?
Gyökeres also got to 20 goals this weekend.
Okay. And Gyökeres, people is saying that it's top. He's the striker that Barca needed. See the media speech regarding Gyökeres, and see the media speech with Ferran.
I don't know. I also think in the first season, I think Gyökeres is only the 3rd Arsenal striker who in their first season has reached 20 goals.
Okay. Let me tell you how much of these goals have been penalty. Rik,
6 or 7?
Sam, tell me, who else you want to ask?
Real Madrid?
No.
Manchester City?
No.
Who else is the big teams?
No sé.
Liverpool?
Isaac's been injured. But I mean, Ekatike is...
No sé qué decirte. Probably not starter always, but with this Liverpool, good role I can imagine for him, yes.
Inter?
Pues para mí, good options to be starter in Inter, Yeah.
I think they're the main ones. I was just starting with the Champions League semi-finalists, mainly.
Okay. And what do you want to say with this?
But so Ferran starts ahead of Lautaro or Thuram?
Hombre, y tanto. What do you think? But you normally want to make other players like if they are Pelé, and you just because you are not watching their games, because you only see the highlights. Lautaro Martinez, 16 goals. 16 goals. Wait, check. I was saying only Serie A. The whole season. Look, Lautaro Martinez, exactly the same amount of goals than Ferran, with the same amount of minutes. The same, exactly the same numbers. And no one is talking about Lautaro like the shit that we are in Siempre Positivo Inter Tifosi podcast. No one, Ricky Charmini is not saying that Lautaro is shit.
I haven't watched enough of Lautaro to really comment, but he's got 5 assists. How many assists does Ferran have?
Let me check it. But in terms of number, the same. 20 goals in 2,500 minutes. And Marcus Thuram, let me check right now. Marcus Thuram. Apart from that, where do you want to arrive with this point, Sam? You want to say something to us?
No, I was just interested to see how highly, interested to see how highly you rated Ferran in terms of, because obviously about the numbers, whether you put him in those teams as well.
But I think the point is clear, no, Sam? I made it clear several times. Ferran is not a top 3 striker to be started with. Not top 3 striker to win the Champions League. I said it 25 times, that Kane, Mbappe, Haaland, all of them above of him.
Yeah.
To 18
How many assists,
18,
Ferran?
Ferran, I think 1 or 2. 18 goals, Marcus Thuram. In more minutes, less goals. So,
But yeah, but like also, I mean, again, I don't. We're going to end this conversation because we're not discussing this. But it's not like I said at the start of it. I'm not just looking at his goal number, even though that is a big factor.
Yeah, no, I know, but and also I get what. Well, it's not what Sam is saying, because what Sam's saying is also what I'm saying. That to win Champions League, you need top 3, top 4 maximum striker, and now right now you don't have top 3, top 4 striker. But football is not only
Thuram 7 assists,
but
as well.
but 18 goals with more minutes.
18 goals, 7 assists.
Yeah. Less goals. It's true. But again, I think that when you want to win the Champions League, you need a lot of important players, not only those that are going to be there, because sometimes you will need to make rotations, there will be injuries at the end. All those that are winning the Champions League is because they have more than 11 players.
Yeah, for me, Ferran Torres is a perfect backup striker.
For me, he's a perfect backup striker for a top team.
Yeah. Like I've always said this, as even in the worst moments of Ferran, as a bench option, I've been happy with him. Someone who comes on hungry and wants to prove himself and blah blah blah.
And also
Great.
the question regarding who would be starter in the last years has lost importancia. ¿Cómo es importancia?
Yeah, it's less important than it used to be because
It's
of
less
the
important
5
because
subs.
now after the COVID with 5 substitutions, it's really not only this. It's 5 substitutions, and also the fact that with the big number of games, the high number of games per season, all coaches are starting to use almost all their players and making a lot of rotations. In the past, it was not like this. So right now, look, that it's very complicated in a lot of big teams to say which is the lineup. No, for example, if I ask you right now in Madrid which is the clear lineup, some will say Arda, others will say Arda not. Some will say Camavinga yes, Camavinga not. Some will say Carreras, other will say Mendy. So right now in Barca is the same. Who is totally starter? Fermín or Olmo? Lewandowski or Ferran? Julian or Sorloth? Hanko or Ruggeri? And sometimes. So what I want to tell you that the question would be he starter, for me has lost a bit of sense in the last years, seeing how he's developing football and the way of proceeding, the modus operandi of coaches with 3 games per season, per week.
Yeah, actually, it's an interesting topic, this, because a colleague of mine, Gabby, said, he was asking, what is Barca's once tipo of the season? Like the most, the sort of, if this season had a classic Barca starting lineup, what would it be? And I found it quite hard to answer, because you would say Raphinha, for example, but he's actually played less than Rashford.
Yeah.
So, and you would
but here for me it's clear that it's in the head of Flick. For me, it's
of course
it's
Raphinha. Of course, it's Raphinha. But the onset of this season for Barca, because it's one of those title package pieces where what they do in the Spanish is put out like a list of facts about Barca for people to use, including what this season's typical lineup's been.
Still Raphinha.
But Raphinha has played less than Rashford, but playing less is a number, and you say that number is not important.
And then centre-back, who would you say the centre-backs are? Kubasi and Gerard Martin?
I think Kubarsi and Gerard Martin, and Eric as a pivot, even if he has played more as a centre-back, you have to put him because he has to be on the lineup.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have Eric as the pivot, Frankie's just not in the lineup.
Or putting Gerard Martin on the left because has been better than Balde, and Eric and Kubarsi.
I think you're misunderstanding the point of it is to describe what the typical 11 of Barca this season has been. It wouldn't be Gerard Martin on the left because he's hardly played on the left.
Yeah.
What is Barca's typical 11 this season? It's very Lamine, Joan Garcia, Pedri, all in. Striker, I said Ferran, but it's close with Lewandowski. Ferran's had a few more minutes, I think.
No, I think it would be, of course, with Koundé and...
Yeah, Koundé, Balde, Kubasi. But then you have to leave out one of Eric, Frankie or Gerard Martin.
No, probably...
You have to.
Frankie out, no? Because the season of Gerard Martin and Eric has been superb. No, that's why I'm telling you that it's difficult to see which is the concrete lineup. The same in Bayern. I don't have big control of Bayern, no? But I guess that Gnabry, Olise, Musiala has been in the bench several times.
He's been injured for a long time. It's also that he was injured.
Yeah. It's also that he was injured. But Upamecano, Ta, Leimer, Kimmich. Nowadays you need 15 players. 15. It's true that always, if they are all fit at the end, someone will have to be in the bench in the final of Champions League. Also, yeah, but sometimes you don't even never know which is the lineup because at least there is always one injured player. In Barca, always there is at least one. Or Raphinha is out, or Rashford is out, or Leo is out, or Olmo is out, and then it's easier because less competition and Fermin is the 10. So big teams, they have always one or two players injured. So sometimes it's impossible. What matters for me is that the backup has to perform and to give you good numbers and good levels. That's why Barca won the league this season, because we all agree that the season of Barca this season has not been brilliant. But at the end, you had these people appearing and performing. One day Fermin, other game Rashford saved you, other game Lewandowski, other Olmo. It has been a collective win, apart from Lamine Yamal, of course. But apart from this, it's the team spirit in this sense.
I find this to be a bit problematic going forward, though. Like, it's good to have this in a season, but next season, I feel like it's not something you can rely on, that all these players get over 10 goals and assists that often aren't maybe at the level to get that.
Rik, for me, this has a very positive impact in long-term competitions like La Liga, but it's really a bad symptom in clutch competition like Champions, because at the end, when we are saying this, is that if you don't have Lamine Yamal, you probably, when you reach semi-final, on the key moment, you will hit the post and not scoring the goal, because player that can change the sign of a tie is only Lamine Yamal, not Olise, Kvaratskhelia, Doué, or all other players,
Just to finish then, as we touched on earlier, Barcelona's women's team qualifying for a 6th successive Champions League final on Sunday. They beat Bayern Munich 4-2 at Spotify Camp Nou in front of another sellout crowd of over 60,000. A nice final upcoming later this month in Oslo, Norway, against Lyon, their old rival of course, but not just Lyon, their old coach as well, Jonathan Geraldes, which adds a little bit of spice to that fixture. Rik, interesting game on Sunday at Camp Nou. Obviously Barca 1-1 from the first leg in Munich. They were fairly good value, I would say, for their 4-1 lead, which they had early in the second half against Bayern. But the last half hour, they, despite having a 2-goal advantage, they did wobble a bit, didn't they? Bayern obviously got that goal back to make it 5-3 on aggregate, 4-2 in the game. They hit the woodwork a couple of times. There were last-ditch blocks from Edeni Paredes. There were a couple of good saves from Katakoi. There was a disallowed goal for a foul very early in the build-up, which Bayern disputed, obviously disallowed after a VAR check. On another day, it would have been quite feasible that maybe they wouldn't have got back to level, but they would have got back to within one goal, and then who knows what would have happened in those final minutes. So while Barca were good value, I think, for reaching the final, I think 5-3 over the course of the two legs is a fair reflection. There were moments of wobbling, which will certainly give Lyon some hope. Lyon, of course, have had their own problems on route to the final. They lost to Wolfsburg in the first leg in their quarter-final. They lost to Arsenal in the first leg of their semi-final. They've had to do it the hard way to make the final, despite the undoubted depth they have and attacking prowess. It's going to be a really interesting final.
Yeah, interesting final. I agree with you that Barca deserved to go through from the tie, but only just. This was way closer than perhaps people thought it was going to be. Obviously, the 7-1 in the group or the league phase of the Champions League wasn't reflective necessarily of the level of Bayern, and this wasn't ever going to be as easy as that game was. But I think there was stuff to worry about from Barca yesterday. Like the last 30 minutes were woeful. Like Bayern could easily have got level and forced extra time. It was quite lucky from Barca they didn't. And that goal that was disallowed, very controversial for the harder goal. And I actually think the management of the game was quite poor from Pere Romeu. Like Barca were, like you say, 4-1 up and fairly comfortable at that point. he brings on Aitana Bonmati, wrong decision in hindsight. Yeah, give her a minute or two to... This is a game that she was fighting to get back fit for, and it's nice for everyone to see her and so on. But chucking her on in the Champions League semi-final, I mean, like, there's not that many games, like I've said before, in the women's season that seem all that demanding for Barca, but this is going to be one of them. Champions League semi-final. I think it was a mistake to throw her on so early, with sort of half an hour to go, off the top of my head, maybe 25 minutes or something, and then she obviously gets that chance and does quite badly with it. She could have passed it, but she ran across and blocked the run of, I can't remember which teammate is coming up behind her, and then fired wide, and then I think struggled in general in the game, which is normal after 5 months out with a broken leg. Like, to throw her on for that long is crazy to me. And taking off the best player of the game by a long way, in my opinion, Salma Parajuelo. Obviously, Alexia scored twice, but I think Salma was the best player and has had a better game than I can remember her having in this season. Which is good to see, because I liked her a lot in seasons past, and then she's kind of fallen off a bit. But yeah, good performance. Taking off Graham Hansen, who also had a very good game. I didn't really understand what he was playing at, to be honest. And Sarah Geordie as well. She had also had a good game, and taking her off. And then when she goes off, I think Barca just collapse. I think this is managed really badly. And Pere Romero wouldn't like me saying this. I saw on social media, he in his press conference after, which I didn't go to as I didn't have to add any quotes from him yesterday, he was saying he doesn't accept criticism from people who are outside the Barca footballing setup, because they don't know what they're talking about. And only people who are coaches know what they're talking about. Yeah,
it's going to be fascinating, because obviously he was on Geraldo's coaching staff at Barcelona, and now it's coming up against him in the final. I do agree. I think in general he's got this idea that... Well, not this idea. He's got these 14 or 15 players, and he kind of, when the big games comes around, he wants to give them all, if they're not starting, then he wants to give them half an hour. You know, he wants Claudia Pina to come on. And look, maybe she does deserve to come on, but sometimes you have to read the game. And like you say, I thought Caroline Graham-Hansen as well, and Salma Parajuelo, who were on the wings, were having good games. And perhaps he had these decisions made before the game. I guess he would argue, you know, they were 4-1 up. And, you know, it was the moment to give Pina half an hour, to give Graham Hansen a rest or whatnot. I'm sure he'll have his reasons, but his subs do often, beyond this game, do often feel choreographed in terms of already predetermined, I guess, more than choreographed. And he doesn't
for what?
read the game very well. And I'm hypothesizing what he might say or what he might suggest.
Yeah, I know, but like they didn't play a game for an entire week before this game. They had no league game in between the two Champions League games. They play on Wednesday against Levante in a league they've already won. I don't think Graham Hansen needs to be rested. Yeah, you are right. I guess he wants to give players who have done well this season the chance to play in the game and make a meaningful contribution. But
I mean, it almost becomes like it almost, obviously, I think it's a massive bonus playing at Camp Nou, but it almost kind of, obviously the players love it, and I think the fact that it's such a big occasion because they play there so few times per season almost becomes like a factor in the thinking, like beyond the game, in terms of, you know, if I don't use this player at Camp Nou and the few opportunities they get to play there, then it could backfire. Almost sort of thinking of that beyond the sort of tactical or what the game needs. But I mean, like I say, these decisions were also, I do agree the decisions changed the course of the game, but it could have gone that way anyway. They were 4-1 up, Bayern all of a sudden took their, you know, had nothing to lose. They went all on the, like you see from the Aitana chance, they were basically throwing everyone forward. So there are factors to consider, but I do have big questions about Romeo in some of these big games, as we saw in the final against Arsenal last year. And my early thought is, and I've not been impressed with Lyon. I saw parts of their tie against Wolfsburg. I saw the extra time against Wolfsburg, and I saw some of the second leg against Arsenal. Considering all the players they've got, the depth they've got, and the quality of players they've got, I actually thought Geraldo's would have them playing better by now. In terms of, you know, I actually think Geraldo's 3 years at Barcelona were the best they've been. I think they've got worse since he left. I thought even the year that they lost to Lyon in the final, I still think, and maybe I'm influenced by the crowd and whatnot, the semi-final against Wolfsburg, that first half when they blew them away, was one of the best halves of football I've still seen from Barca's women's side. So I do think with Geraldo's, with the depth they've got, they'll have seen how Barca could be got out of the back. I mean, even the first goal was poor defending from Barca. Second goal as well, and you could have conceded more. I mean, there was some good last-ditch defending, I guess. I think Lyon will be confident. It's a coin flipper. Yeah.
What I mean, it's really, really hard to call. I would maybe just on the basis of having seen close up yesterday Barca's defending in the last half an hour, I would give a slight edge to Lyon, but maybe that's just recency bias and so on. Barca obviously very strong, and it would be no surprise if they won the Champions League. I mean, I guess in terms of numbers, I can't remember if you mentioned it already, this is the 6th final in a row that Barca have reached, which is, well, it's incredible. Like, they are the dominant force. Even though they lost last year's final against Arsenal, they are the dominant force in women's football, unbeaten in 31 consecutive games now, ending Bayern's 29-game streak of without losing since as you told me, since the last Barca game, the 7-1. And if they have Paruello and Graham Hansen playing like they did yesterday, which is a much higher level than I've seen them play at in recent. I mean, like, I felt like Graham Hansen's performance was as good as when she was at her peak in that season, where her numbers are absolutely obscene, and Paruello as well, like, fantastic yesterday. So yeah, and then I don't know what the best thing to do. Maybe, of course, you try and get Bonmati fit and ready to start if she can be, but I think you got to be careful with it. It doesn't matter that she's got 3 Ballon d'Ors if she's not performing better than alternatives in midfield, Sarah Geordie or whoever, because like you said, we're talking about the subs and stuff. I think that was the key one, Sarah Geordie off and Bonmati on, that caused trouble for the team yesterday. Then don't start her in the final if she's not ready to start in the final and playing better than whoever else might have that spot. Yeah,
3 weeks until the final. They've got a few league games to come. They've also got the Copa del Reina final to come against Atletico Madrid. They're still on track for a quadruple. Like you say, I'm sure Aitana will get minutes in those games increasingly, but I think it's almost not lucky. Obviously, you'd rather have Aitana start in the final, but it almost comes soon enough that Romeo is able to make that decision. If she'd have come back a month ago, and perhaps you'd have been, it would have been harder to maybe get to the final. And I'm sure it will still be hard, and it will depend on what happens in the next few weeks. But I feel like it should be an understandable decision, and one which we should, I'm sure, reluctantly accept to leave her on the bench and have her as an incredible weapon for the second half. But we'll see what happens in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and to be fair to her, I'm not saying, I think she obviously does have an ego. All top level players will have an ego, but her comments after the game were nice, where she said, like, the team have done so well to get here, and she wasn't talking about, like, she said, I'm really happy for the team. They've had a great season, and now we just need to put the cherry on top. So I don't know. Yeah, it's just she wasn't taking too much credit for yesterday.
Yeah. But no, she'd be absolutely desperate to be back and starting that final. Look at the Euros when she had viral meningitis and was in hospital and could have missed the tournament, and then next thing you know, she's back starting most of the games. So we'll see how it all pans out. But I'm certainly going to be an exciting final against Lyon.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
So we've got time for today. We'll be back on Patreon later this week ahead of the Clasico, when Barcelona, of course, could be crowned champions, back-to-back champions under Hansi Flick. Otherwise, if you're not over on Patreon, we'll see you next Monday after that game. And in the meantime, stay positive.